Sly Cooper is one of the most underrated and unappreciated video game platformers of all time. This raccoon made his first appearance back in 2002 for the PlayStation 2, and while he's never had the same level of respect as Jak and Daxter or Ratchet and Clank, Sly has a very passionate fan base that's still going 21 years strong, and with many, myself included, praying and clamoring for a revival one day for him by Sony. But after many rumors of a movie, a cartoon series, and a fifth game, we still have yet to hear any canon news about our beloved raccoon. So while it seems like the franchise is dead at this point, I'm still trying to keep it alive, and so are many other people. And with today being the anniversary of his first ever game coming out, I decided that we're gonna do a review of his very first ever game. So, if you guys are ready, it's your boy SlyLancey. If you guys know me from my other Sly Cooper videos, the top 10 videos I do of Sly Cooper, you can watch those. But for today, we're going to be doing a review on what is without a doubt one of the best PlayStation 2 games to come out, Sly Cooper and the Thievious Raccoonus. Hey guys, so before we get straight into this video, here's how I'm going to do the video. So I'm going to talk about the development of the game. Then I'm going to talk about the game itself with the story, then the gameplay, then the art style, and then the soundtrack, and then I'm going to do a little score at the end to add it all up. So, aside from that little disclaimer, let's get straight into this video. In order to understand Sly, we need to go back to his origins. So let's go all the way back to 1997. During this time period, a small group of developers, which would later become known as Sucker Punch, decided to work together to make a video game for the Nintendo 64. That video game being known as Rocket, Robot on Wheels. Now, I won't go too much into detail about this video game in particular, but I will say it did lay the groundwork for what Sly Cooper would eventually be, because with the antagonist in that game being a raccoon dude, it was very clear that Sucker Punch was going to use the idea of the raccoon probably as a protagonist later down the line for another video game. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. So the developers, the next game that the Sucker Punch wanted to make, they wanted to make a video game where thieving was the main goal at hand. But they also wanted it to be like a cartoony type of game where it feels like a cartoon morning, like a Saturday morning cartoon that you're watching. Something that has like dark elements to it and can be serious, but it's also very funny and comical. So something that like stands out from what GTA was like. So the developers had decided, they were going to use the antagonist in the Rocket on Wheels game of that raccoon guy and use the raccoon as a way of making a protagonist. And they decided the idea for the raccoon as the thief because of the mask that raccoons have on their face, the little black marks on their face, how it looks like a mask, and how it'd be ironic if the thief actually wore a mask over his painted black face already. So yeah, that's how it goes. And after various concept arts and program designs, they came across a design that would be one of the most iconic PlayStation looks of all time. A handsome looking male raccoon dude with a royal blue shirt, royal blue cap, red backpack, royal blue and gold gloves, and his signature brown and gold cane. The process to program this game took about another year and a half, and on September 23rd, 2002, Sly Cooper and the Thievious Raccoonus came out for PlayStation 2. Okay, so before we get into the story, let's talk about the cover art and what it provides us in terms of what the story may be about. Okay, so this first cover, it's just simple. It looks like a logo, it looks like a raccoon logo with the title at the top. So, you don't know what you're walking into, but it looks mysterious yet pretty fun. So the cover, it does a great job at keeping that mystery, but I can't help but feel like it's a bit too simplistic for my liking, just for my liking at least. But then you look at the greatest hits cover and it looks a lot better to me. Like there's a lot more going on and you can actually see what the story's actually going to be about, And I think the reason they did that is because they wanted to have audiences be interested in the game, and like the mysterious cover that the original PS2 cover was, is actually, it's actually pretty mysterious. So But then when you get the greatest hits cover and you're like, oh, this is actually this looks dope. I actually want to play it. So I think that's what Sucker Punch was trying to go for in terms of the cover art. But I'll talk more about the art later on in this video. But right now, let's just go ahead and get into this game already, guys. Okay, so let's start off in chronological order with the story. We're not going to do how the game did it, in which we start at the present time and then go back in time. We're actually going to start back in time and move away and then move forward to the present. Sly Cooper was born in 1984. The exact day and month is not revealed, but we just know that if we're going by how old he was during that specific year and then afterwards, Sly was born in 1984 by that point in time. And then we move forward to 1992, in which he's 8 years old and he's learning about his family's business from his father. And basically, the whole idea of the family business is that they come from a long line of master thieves that steal exclusively from other criminals or owners with dirt behind them. And coming from a long line of master thieves, the Cooper lineage created this rule for Coopers to live by, in a rulebook that became known as the Thievious Raccoonus. In this special rulebook created by the Cooper lineage, this is a rulebook that teaches all the history about the Coopers and what they lived for, how they learned new moves, and what they lived by. And the one major rule in the rulebook is that you don't steal from ordinary people. You steal from other criminals or people with dirt behind them. Because there's no honor and no fun in stealing from ordinary people. Because if you steal from a master criminal, then you know you are a master thief. And unfortunately, Sly wouldn't have to wait to earn that opportunity to become a master thief, because on one fateful night when he was supposed to inherit the book from his father, 5 unwelcome visitors known as the Fiendish Five came to Sly's home. The gang broke in and killed both of Sly's parents right in front of his eyes and ransacked the house until they came across Sly's family heirloom, the Thievious Raccoonus. They tore the book apart, each member taking 5 sections for themselves and then separating afterwards to commit dastardly crimes across the world. Sly, broken alone but still having his family cane, was forced to live in a rundown orphanage somewhere down the block from his old place. But it was there that he would meet 2 people that would change his life forever. First, we have Bentley, a very small but highly intelligent turtle, and Murray, a very dim-witted but also a very, very strong hippo. They all bonded during this time at the orphanage, mainly concocted plans to stealing Mrs. Puff's cookies, and it was through this meeting that Sly had found not only 2 friends that he could trust, but also they could help him accomplish a plan he had since that fateful day he lost everything. He could hunt down the gang who murdered his parents and steal back the Thievious Raccoonus book that was stolen from him as a child. With all that in motion, all the while, he runs across another person that he's going to have a very often run-in with. A very foxy cop known as Inspector Carmelita Fox, a young yet beautiful Latina orange fox, who's going to constantly chase him around and try to lock him away in jail for all the crimes that Sly and the gang had committed. So Sly is going to have to embark on a jury that he knows himself may cost him his own life, whether it be through death or through a jail cell. But he's willing to pay the price in order to restore his family's name and reputation and claim back his birthright. Okay, so after we escape from Carmelita in Paris with her police files detailing, Sly's life and the Fiendish Five, we embark on this journey to track down the Fiendish Five, and there's 5 different members. First up, we have Sir Raleigh the Frog, a bullfrog who is the machinist of the Fiendish Five, a rich man who grew bored of his life and turned to a life of crime as a result. He's reserved in the Isle of Wrath, where he's using his blimp to plunder ships for the loot by making it rain constantly. Be sure to watch out for the walrus guards and all the spotlights and sirens in the area. Next up, we have Mugshot, an American bulldog who is the enforcer of the Fiendish Five. As a little kid, Mugshot was picked on constantly for his weak size and small stature, but after watching numerous gangster movies, he decided to start working out and, obviously use steroids to build himself into this hulking-like monster. and mob boss, and then grew an infatuation with guns because of those movies. So, Mugshot reserves himself in Mesa City, a very popular casino that was apparently run down by Mugshot in order to open up space for his new dark empire. So, if you can take the heat, walk your way through the desert, and watch out for the guards that Mugshot has, which is by far the toughest set of guards in the entire game, and also some of the missions too. Next up, we have Ms. Ruby, the chief mystic of the Fiendish Five. Having grown into a family of mystics, she was feared by other children due to her strange powers and apparent love for the undead. Because of this, the years of bitterness led to Ms. Ruby using her voodoo tactics to take revenge on the world, and her plan being to resurrect ghosts from the dead to wreak havoc upon the world. So if you can handle the creepy nature of Haiti and all the undead ghosts, make your way to Ms. Ruby and collect the pages of the book. And next up, we have the pyrotechnician that resides in the Kung Lao Mountains, Panda King. A Chinese panda who grew up broke and alone but had an infatuation for fireworks. But because he was poor and alone, people made fun of him. So because of this, Panda King used fireworks to destroy different areas in China. And while he's doing this to get back at the world, there may be something a bit more lighthearted underneath the Panda King's fur that we don't know about. But we'll get into that later. So, just make your way through the Kung Lao Mountains, as cold and rigid as the area is. Avoid all the Kung Fu warriors in the area as well as you make your way to Panda King and steal back the other pages of the book. And lastly, we have the main guy, the main baddie of the entire story who caused all this chaos and trouble for us. Clockwork, a Eurasian owl who replaced his body parts with robot features and is the leader of the Fiendish Five. And once you defeat the other 4 members, you can take on the big bad bird. And we fight him through the skies, and then after we defeat him in the skies, we have to travel through the ground and get to him, and then put an end to him once and for all, and then snatch the last pages of the book from his claws. After this, Sly's defeated the entire Fiendish Five with the help of Bentley and Murray and Carmelita as well along the journey, even if it was indirect. With the pages of the Thievious Raccoonus restored, having stolen the pages back from the members and stolen the pages from inside the vaults in each area, Sly's ready to embark on a journey of becoming the new master thief in the world. The whole premise to this story is absolutely original and is a huge love letter to stealth and espionage films everywhere. For a video game that's meant for kids, it handles very dark topics like death and revenge with such care and critical attention to detail that it doesn't come off as forced. For a company making only its second game in history at the time, Sucker Punch really wasn't scared to test the waters of what it could do. And once again, it just shows the testament of how good that Sucker Punch is at what they do and how they're not afraid to go far and deep into the surreal with stuff. The fact that they made this game that's supposedly rated E for everyone into a dark story, but somehow managed to cover it up and blanket it up enough to get the E rating is absolutely insane to me. The story here is great, and I love this story that Sly Cooper and the Thievious Raccoonus has. And now, we move on to the gameplay section. Now, for a game that's trying something completely new and innovative for its time, Sly 1 does a great job at what it does. However, it doesn't mean that it's completely a home run either. Sly 1 is a mixture of a platformer, a shooter, and a racer. And to me, and a lot of other people, it easily thrives the best as a platformer. But it doesn't live up to being a platformer all the time. Here's what I mean. The main gameplay for this game is you have to collect a treasure key at the end of each hub world that you're in. Once you collect 7 of them keys from the worlds, you can unlock an entrance to the villain's door so you can face them at the end. After you defeat the big bad, you can collect the pages to your family's book and move on to the next area in the game. While that is the main objective of the game, there's still a ton of side stuff we can do too. Things like searching for clue bottles in order to obtain a treasure from a hidden vault in the mission area, 9 times out of 10 it being a page to the Thievious Raccoonus, is always fun to do. The life system also brings out that arcade style of gaming which was very prevalent during the time. Also, the ability to collect coins in this game, for which every 100 coins that you collect will earn you either another life or a lucky charm. What is a lucky charm, you ask? No, not that, and I hate that cereal, by the way. Anyway, back on topic here. A lucky charm is an item that protects you from losing a life. So if you get hit, the lucky charm will take the hit rather than you yourself. And let's not forget the main slogan of this game. Jump and press the circle button. Trust me, if you get stuck anywhere during one of these missions, just jump and press the circle button. I promise you it's gonna get you out of anything in that game. The platforming experience is fun in this game, but like I said earlier, it isn't a platformer the entire time. The game switches up its style so many times in this game that it can actually become rather frustrating for a few players, whether certain missions come along that either make no sense or are much harder than anticipated. Case in point, the crab mission from Sir Riley's stage or the racing missions from Mugshot and Panda King stages. And let's also not forget the Deadly Dance boss fight with Miss Ruby. Oh my gosh. But I won't ramble on too much here, because you can obviously tell that developers wanted to have a lot of variety in this game, but I don't think it was meant solely to make the gameplay more fun. I truly think that they did this because if they ever had the idea of making a sequel, they would want to use this game as a fixed point to see what worked and what didn't. Some of the best gameplay in this game is literally when we have to use Sly to get through an area that requires you to jump and press the circle button 700 times. It's a simple gameplay mechanic, yes, but it's a lot of fun thanks to the fluid movement and control of Sly's character model. And in all honesty, I would much rather use Sly himself for the entire game rather than have to use a gun turret to shoot down enemies or be forced to drive a car that isn't even controllable half the dang time. But I'm rambling on here. As far as I'm concerned, Sly 1's gameplay is still a whole lot of fun, but to me it operates the best when it's a platformer. But it isn't a platformer for a third of that gameplay. Missions like the crab mission, the racing missions, and the turn missions, to me, it just doesn't fit the aspect of what this game should have been. This game could have been a whole lot more. The gameplay is still good, but certain missions like that bring it down a bit for me, which is why I don't really care for the game as much as I should. But that's not to say I don't hate the game. I absolutely love Sly 1. But I like it when I'm doing the platforming, not the racing and shooting in here. And even when we do the racing and shooting, I want it to at least be more memorable or have the controls be much better than what it should be. Not like this minigame course that we have to go through every single time. Those type of missions feel like they're just there just to be there, not actually, benefiting the story or the gameplay one bit. Okay, so let's talk about the art in this game. Now, as someone who's passionate about art and wants to be a full-time freelance artist one day, I had to make this a category. It was just gonna go without saying. So, what do I think about the art to the first Sly Cooper game? Overall, I think it's great. The art has a special charm to it, in this game in particular too. And while some may consider the later games to have a better art style than this game, don't discredit the art style to this game one bit. The setting to Sly 1 has elements of film noir combined with a bit of comic book motifs. The 2D art style during the cutscenes really represents that style, both those styles really well. And it even translates well into 3D thanks to the art mechanic known as cell shading. Now, what is cell shading, you guys may ask? Cell shading is a type of non-photorealistic rendering designed to make 3D computer graphics appear to be flat by using less shading color instead of the shade gradient or tints and shades. A cell shader is often used to mimic the style of a comic book or a cartoon and or give the render or a characteristic paper-like texture. The names of the cells, short for celluloid, clear sheets of acetate paper which are often used to be painted on. So this stuff is what you would normally see in like animated shows that you would see back in the 90s, case in point like Rugrats or SpongeBob from the late 90s, stuff like that. That's basically what cell shading is, but they're using that to make a 3D game. And Sucker Punch, I think, really did a great job with that. The cell shading really helps this game stand out a lot and gives it a much defined feel. And to this end 20 plus years later, it still looks fresh and crisp and brand new. What also helps this game in it is the lighting as well. I read a comment somewhere that this game had a very, very dark setting and background, but thanks to a light engine that Sucker Punch used, the darkest areas in this game are able to stand out to the casual viewer, making the game a lot more colorful and bright to the naked eye. And to me, if it was without that light engine, the art in this game would have suffered tremendously. So I say that the developers did a great job in making sure that we could see everything in that game. And also when you're playing the game, especially if you're playing it on the Sly collection, I think it really stands out really well, and it almost gives me like a VR feeling every time I watch and play this game. For example, certain areas in Sir Raleigh's area, you can feel how cold and damp the area is outside, but at the same time, when you walk in, it feels like a furnace in the furnace room. Like the game really does a great job at that. Even back then, when we was young and we were kids and we had those old school TVs, you could still feel the impact of those levels. Even in other areas of the game, Mugshot's casino looks great, and then Panda King's mountain temple really feels like it's freezing cold up there and you really just don't want to be out there. It's all done so wonderfully. And because art is not just dedicated to drawing and illustration, we're also going to talk about some of the acting performances as well. So let's talk about the characters and their voice acting. Kevin Miller as Sly Cooper has got to be considered one of the greatest casting choices for a video game ever. He really brings out the great charm, confidence, and swagger in Sly, because Sly literally lives up to his name as a calm, collected, but cunning and devious dude. So that's one of the reasons why he's such a memorable protagonist for a lot of fans out there. Then you have voice actors like Matt Olson and Chris Murphy, who do a good job voicing as Bentley and Murray respectively. Matt Olson really captures Bentley's anxious yet intelligent energy, and you can see it in the games and cutscenes. He's like nervous and he's rambling on about how Sly shouldn't do this or shouldn't do that, but obviously Sly's gonna ignore him. It's just Matt Olson really captures that energy for Bentley. Now for Chris Murphy as the Murray. Okay, so I'm just going by the fact that I played all 4 of these games numerous times in this series, and I could just go as far as to say that I really do not like Murray's character in Sly 1, but that's not to say it's terrible. It's just that I'm so used to how Sly 2, Sly 3, and Sly 4 are with Murray that anytime I go back to play Sly 1, it's a very, very like, what's the word? It's very, very like, I can't think of the word, but it's just like weird to see Murray just be cowardly. As to in the later games, he's very brave and he's not afraid of anyone. That's what I get with Murray in this game. But his voice actor does a great job at portraying that, and also portraying how Murray becomes who he is in the later series. As for the villains in this game, they do great performances too. They do really great performances too, especially Mugshot and Panda King and even Clockwork. Sir Raleigh also has a pretty good performance too. Also Ms. Ruby as well. Ms. Ruby, even though some people can be put off by the stereotypes that this game that this whole series has, the stereotypes can really be bad in this series. If there's any gripe with Sly Cooper, it's that, but I don't think people are complaining about that too much. So, but yeah, overall, I think every character has a bit of emotion in them and a bit of great personality to them that works for them. But there's one character I just can't forgive in this game, and that's Carmelita. The VA to Carmelita, I'm sorry, she just doesn't work for me. Had she stayed as the VA for Carmelita throughout the entire series, I truly think she could have gotten better, but because it was just a one-off thing, whether because either Sucker Punch didn't like her, or maybe she found a better deal somewhere else as a voice actor, she didn't return to voice Carmelita again for the rest of the series. And please keep this in mind, because this is going to be a running gag of Carmelita having a new voice actor in every one of these games and TV shows. So, but I do love Carmelita's dynamic with the Cooper gang, and her relationship with Sly, and how it's so like, and how will they be together? Will they not be together? Will the crime and law get in the way of that? Will they put the differences aside? All questions to be answered, hopefully by the end of this series. Hopefully. Okay, so combining those two together, overall, the art in this game is absolutely great. Between the voice actors doing a pretty solid job, giving the characters memorable portrayals, and then the comic book art style working great for it. This game really does feel like a Saturday morning cartoon. and the story fits like a glove, with the voice acting just being maple syrup on top of buttermilk pancakes made fresh in the morning. Okay guys, so now we move into the final section of this video before we get to the highs and lows and then the scores, and that is the soundtrack. Now, the soundtrack for this game was produced by Azif Aki, and again, someone correct me in the comment section if I misspelled or missaid his name, but yes, Azif Aki. The music was inspired by the artwork that Azif Aki saw for the video game. So, from what I've read from an article that apparently Azif Aki said, he basically said that the stylistic influences for this game came from a combination of instrument choices and musical character defined and inspired by the locales in this game. And similar to how the composer like Yoko Kanno for her work in Cowboy Bebop, and Henry Mancini and Carl Stalling. So yeah, so basically Azif decided before he made any music that he needed to see the artwork first before he went into the music. And in all honesty, as someone who used to make rap songs all the time, this is exactly the same thing I did whenever I made music. I would make the cover first and then look at the art cover before I decided what music to make for it. So I understand Haki's decision making in doing this, and overall I think he did a pretty great job actually. The soundtrack is really good. It makes each stage and level unique in its own right and makes it stand out in its own little way. Some of my favorite tracks in this game, but are not limited to Back Alley Heist, A Stealthy Approach, the credits theme, and the Paris Rooftop. But while I do like a lot of these soundtracks in this game and they're pretty good, I also can't help but feel like a lot of them just are stale and they're just missing something that can push the game over the top. Because like some of the missions in here, some of the soundtracks in here feel like they're just there just to serve a purpose, not really like being memorable in any way, shape, or form. So they feel like they have no real purpose to the overall theme that Sly Cooper is supposed to bring. That theme being a thief at the night. But regardless of the soundtrack in this game, you know, whether it's good in some people's eyes or bad in some people's eyes, it does a lot to make it memorable in its own way. Maybe not as memorable as some of the other Sly Cooper games that we get later down the line, but to me, it's still a really good soundtrack to me. Okay guys, so now that we covered all the main categories that I had planned for this review, let's get into the highs of this game and the lows of this game. So, what are the highs of this game? What are the pros to this game here? First off, the great story. The story here is incredible, it's original, and again, like I said earlier, it's a love letter to stealth and espionage films everywhere. The soundtrack, albeit not as memorable to me, is still a really good soundtrack, and it does provide a lot of classic Sly Cooper moments in here, and it does, I think, in a way, pave way for how the game would have a different bass soundtrack in the later games in the series, but again, I'm going a bit too far. The gameplay, it's simple yet effective. The jump and press the circle button mechanic works like a charm every single time, and I love it. The character personas in here, Sly, Bentley, and Murray, all are great characters, even though I still have a tad bit of a problem with Murray, but it's literally because it's the first game, but the other two are fine. Clockwood is a menacing villain that, you know, you get scared of him, and I guarantee you there were a couple of kids that probably had nightmares from Clockwood and his voice. And, you know, along with the characters, the voice acting is just stellar. It's really stellar. Kevin Miller does a great job. Matt Olson, Chris Murray, you know, even though I still have a bit of a problem with Carmelita, but we'll get into that in a second. The art style is great too. Overall, this game has a lot going for it, and I love everything that it tried to do. But now let's move into the lows of this game and what I think could have been done better to make this game stand out more to the casual viewer. Okay, so first off, this one I'm not gonna ramble on too much because it's literally just a minor nitpick. But the ported version of this game, a lot of the stuff is not synced correctly, and I know this is Sansu trying to port all three games into the same console for PS3, but again, that's just a minor nitpick. I'm not going to go too far into it, but I don't like the ported version of this game at all. It's just way out of sync, especially when you get to Miss Ruby's boss fight. Oh man. Okay, now let's get into the actual lows of this game. certain missions I just feel don't make sense or belong in this game whatsoever. And again, you know, for anyone who's watched my previous Sly Cooper videos, I'll leave little tabs or sections in the video where you can click on the link and watch those other videos, like top 10 worst Sly Cooper missions. A couple of the missions in this game made it into that list. So yeah, I'm just not a fan of how some of the gameplay works in some of these missions. Certain characters I feel needed just a bit more development, like Murray's character. Even though I love the voice actor, the character that he was given just didn't do it justice at the time. Also, Carmelita's voice acting just wasn't great to me in this game either. Even though I'll give Roxanne a bit of leeway because it was literally the first game, and had she stayed, she probably could have done a whole lot better. Other things I don't care about this game about this game probably include, like, you know, like some of the set pieces and areas in this game. Again, this game feels like some things are just thrown in there just to make it, you know, like fun, and it's just like they make it seem like it's fun, but it's really just there just to be there. It's not serving any purpose whatsoever. That's the one main gripe I have with this game, is that certain things are just here that really shouldn't be, but I feel like they threw it in there just to give like some type of pastime to the game. Or another theory that I had is literally seeing what worked and what didn't, and that's as far as I can say about the lows. So, what do I think about Sly Cooper and the Thievious Raccoonus overall? Sly 1 is a fantastic start to the series. Yes, there's a lot of hiccups, but that's to be expected for any first game in a video game franchise. This game accomplishes a lot for what it's given, and while the sales of this game wasn't nearly as high as Jak and Daxter or Ratchet & Clank, Sly still managed to get a high score by many video game critics for its innovative gameplay and deep story. You know, so for me personally, I do love this game. You know, probably not as much as some of the other games in the series that I'll cover later, but I do love Sly 1. So what are the score I give it? Well, for the story, I give it a 9. For the gameplay, I give it a 7. For the art, I give it an 8. And for the soundtrack, I give it a 7. So the total score averages out to be an 8 out of 10 for Sly 1. And that is how it's going to end, guys. Sly Cooper and the Thievious Raccoonus gets an 8 out of 10 for me. Okay, and it's with that, guys, that we just finished the Sly Cooper and the Thievious Raccoonus review. So, what do you guys think of my review? What are things you agree with, things you disagree with? What do you think should have been done correctly in this game? What do you think worked, what didn't? What you loved about it, what you hated about it? What's the score you guys would give it? This is my personal score. As always, I love hearing you guys' opinions and comments in the comment section down below. So just drop them, and I'll get to them as soon as I can, guys. And as always, it's your boy SlyLancey, and I'll see you guys next time. So for the next Sly Cooper review, we'll be reviewing Sly 2, Band of Thieves, and that should be coming out sometime next month, I think. So just stay tuned, guys. I'll see you guys next time.